Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly mind-blowing Chinese legal case. It's really a cautionary tale about how doing absolutely everything right, or, what you traditionally think is right, actually ended up destroying a massive financial deal. We're going to look at how a seemingly ironclad financial guarantee just dissolved right in front of a creditor's eyes. And why? All because they relied on what they could see rather than what the law required them to verify. So I want you to think about this incredibly counterintuitive question for a second. Can a video of a bank manager signing a guarantee actually be used against you in court? I mean, think about it. If you've got lawyers standing right there in the room, cameras are rolling, the ink is drying on the paper, you'd naturally think your investment is completely safe, right? But in China, the answer to this question might actually shock you. To really grasp why, we have to look at the massive stakes involved here. We are talking about a staggering 150 million yuan. Basically, a large construction group lent this massive chunk of change to a trading company. And to secure this mega loan, the construction group required an independent guarantee from the local branch of a major bank. Now, when 9 figures are on the line, you don't take chances. So the creditor came up with what they honestly thought was the ultimate failsafe. Here is what the creditor's plan looked like to create an absolutely airtight case. Step 1, physically walk directly into the bank's local branch office. Step 2, sit right across the desk from the branch vice president and watch them personally sign and stamp the documents. And step 3, have lawyers actually present to record the entire signing process on video. Sounds perfectly logical, right? I mean, they captured the location, the executive's identity, the physical act of stamping, the whole shebang. They thought they were the ultimate bona fide or good faith counterparty.
But here comes the twist. And it is a huge one. When this dispute eventually went to court, the judge voided the guarantee entirely. It turned out the branch VP was acting illegally, and the stamp completely forged. But it gets crazier. The court actually penalized the creditor. That perfect video evidence they were so proud of recording, it backfired spectacularly. It literally helped ruin their civil case.
Okay, so the crucial thing here is understanding exactly how this all fell apart. First, there was a criminal probe. The police investigated the bank employee and proved through criminal forensics that the stamp was a fake and internal processes were completely bypassed. The executive actually ended up going to jail. Second, because of those criminal findings, the civil court ruled that the guarantee had no legal foundation and just voided it. Third, and this is the real kicker, the whole legal battle suddenly shifted from enforcing a guarantee to a fault-based liability assessment. The creditor was no longer guaranteed their money. They now had to somehow prove the bank was at fault for the broken contract. This brings us to a major shift happening in Chinese courts right now. It's a concept known as piercing adjudication. Basically, courts are no longer satisfied with just the superficial appearance of a transaction. They look right past the surface-level setting, the fancy bank office, the impressive job titles, to verify if the internal authority actually matches the scale of the deal. Because under Article 22 of the Commercial Bank Law, a local branch doesn't have independent legal person status. Its manager simply doesn't have the automatic power to approve megatransactions without strict, explicit authorization from the top. And this brilliantly illustrates the really dangerous trap the creditor fell into. They bet absolutely everything on the form, the physical bank office, the VP signature, their shiny video recording. But the court? The court only cared about the substance, the invisible internal compliance. The court expects that for a 150 million yuan deal, you verify the head office authorization letter. You ensure the deal went through the bank's internal OA, or office automation approval system, and you use an official electronic stamp machine, not some hand-stamped seal. Relying on form over substance is a high-stakes gamble, and it's one you are absolutely going to lose. In fact, because the creditor was so hyper-focused on that form, they missed some glaring anomalies. I mean, look at the red flags the court pointed out. Parts of this highly standardized financial document were literally handwritten, the system tracking number was left completely blank, the stamp was applied manually, whereas, modern banks use tightly controlled stamp machines, and finally, no processing fees were ever paid to the bank and no counter guarantee was provided. The court's logic was super simple. Why would a major bank take on $150 million in risk for absolutely zero revenue? Make it make sense. As the large corporate creditor, you're expected to catch these obvious red flags. Now, consider the deep irony of the lawyer's video recording. You might think recording a signing is a really smart protective measure, right? Well, the judge looked at that follow-up filming and interpreted it very differently. The court reasoned that standard low-risk banking procedures don't exactly require clients to film their bankers. By bringing a camera into the bank, it essentially proved the creditor knew something was abnormal. They were trying to force the appearance of authority to cover up their own doubts. So instead of proving they were an innocent, good faith party, the video literally proved they were suspicious. Because the creditor failed their duty to properly inspect the transaction, specifically failing to demand that crucial head office authorization letter, the financial fallout was an absolute bloodbath. When the court finally apportioned the fault, they decided the bank was only responsible for 30% of the principal, basically due to a lack of employee supervision. And the creditor? Well, they were forced to absorb 70% of the massive loss themselves. Oh, and it gets worse. What about the highly lucrative 24% contractual interest rate the creditor was expecting to earn? Completely wiped out. Because the underlying guarantee was ruled legally void, the court flat out refused to enforce the contract's high interest rate. The compensation was restricted strictly to the remaining principal, and that interest rate was slashed all the way down to a basic, non-lucrative loan prime rate. Their expected profit just vanished overnight. So, we need to rapidly debunk some deeply held corporate myths here. Myth number 1. Hey, if they stamp it in the bank's office, the bank has to pay. Reality, a physical location does not equal legal authority. For mega deals, you absolutely must have the head office authorization. Myth number 2, independent guarantees are totally safe from underlying transaction issues. Reality, actually, if the signing is a criminal act of exceeding authority and you aren't acting in verified good faith, that guarantee is void right at the source. And a quick note for foreign investors. Relying solely on standard international banking rules like the URDG 758 is not going to save you from China's strict domestic compliance laws. Which brings us to the unclosed gaps and the strict new survival rules for any party dealing with 9-figure transactions. Here is the new compliance playbook you have to adopt. 1. Always demand the head office authorization letter. Never just trust a branch manager's word. 2. Verify unique, system-generated tracking numbers on your documents. If it's a 100 million plus guarantee and that number is blank or handwritten, it might just be a worthless piece of paper. And 3. Ensure there is solid proof the transaction actually passed through the bank's internal OA approval system. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a vital question to take back to your teams. Take a hard look at your own corporate compliance checklists. Are you relying on physical locations, executive titles, and, video recordings to feel safe? Or are you digging into the invisible, systemic compliance that the courts actually care about? Ask yourself, is your multi-million yuan guarantee actually worth the paper it's printed on? Make absolutely sure you check that head office authorization, because as we've learned today, seeing isn't always believing. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time.